Hello, lovely people. Welcome to today's episode of Reality TV News. Reminding you, we post videos daily, so if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss any important updates. It's free, and it keeps us motivated. Okay then, let's move on to the news. So today we're talking about, Scary Island.
Oh yeah, RHONY Season 3. Still iconic.
Totally. And we're looking at it again because Luann de Lesseps and Sonja Morgan have shared some, newer thoughts looking back 15 years later.
Right. Different perspectives, especially on that whole Bethenny Frankel and Kelly Bensimon situation.
Exactly. So what we want to do is kind of unpack what these memories tell us now about the event, the dynamics, and why it still resonates,
Okay, sounds good. Where do we start? Luann.
Yeah, let's start with Luann. Now, she wasn't actually there for the main dinner confrontation.
No, she wasn't physically present, which is key.
But she had a really strong take. She felt Bethenny put fear into the other women. That's her phrase.
And she specifically talked about Kelly Bensimon, saying Kelly just isn't equipped for this kind of scenario.
Meaning what exactly? Like, she couldn't handle Bethenny?
Pretty much. Luann called it Bethenny's thrash and felt Kelly just, couldn't cope with that directness, that intensity.
Okay, and Luann was getting intel the whole time.
Yeah, she mentioned getting text messages all evening, people telling her what was happening, Bethenny highlighting Kelly's behavior.
Wow, so she's watching it unfold remotely. Did she try to intervene?
She said she texted Kelly, told her, just take a deep breath, don't let them get to you because they will.
Trying to coach her from afar.
Exactly.
Luann also mentioned Kelly didn't even want to go initially without her or Jill Zarin.
Right. Luann apparently told her, you will not survive without me, sort of protectively.
But now Luann says she's glad she wasn't there.
Kind of. She said it wouldn't be Scary Island if I was there, because she would have stopped it.
So she acknowledges the drama made the moment, even if she would have prevented it. Interesting.
And that protective instinct carried over, apparently. Luann talked about helping Kelly afterwards.
Helping her how?
Well, she was upset by it all and wanted to help Kelly sort of reinvent herself. She even reached out to Andy Cohen.
Oh, really? To do what?
To get Kelly cast on the RHONY Legacy Ultimate Girl Strip season.
And did it work? What did Andy say?
Andy's reaction was apparently positive. He noted Kelly had, quote, done so much work on herself, got a real estate license, and rose from the ashes.
So it depicts that possibility of, bouncing back after a public rough patch.
Definitely. Although the topic did come up again on RHUGT when Dorinda Medley confronted Kelly about Scary Island.
The past never stays buried, does it?
Not in this world. But Luann stood by her defense. She insisted Kelly is not crazy, just, again, not equipped for that kind of drama.
Okay, so that's Luann's perspective, mostly from the outside looking in, or at least after the fact. What about someone who was in it? Sonja Morgan.
Right. Sonja's experience evokes something totally different. She said she'd never seen Kelly behave like that ever in my life.
So it was shocking even to people who knew her.
And Sonja's immediate thought wasn't about sides or drama, but more like, she needs help right now. We don't need to make this worse.
Wow. And how did Sonja react personally? Wasn't she really shaken up?
Totally shaken. She admitted she hid in Ramona Singer's room for the rest of the night. And get this detail, she used umbrellas to barricade the sliding glass doors at the room.
Umbrellas to barricade a door.
Yeah. It just demonstrates the level of, actual fear or distress she felt. It wasn't just awkwardness. For Sonja, it felt physically unsafe somehow.
That really brings to life the intensity for someone right there. Very different from Luann's texts.
Completely different. So you have Luann observing, analyzing, advising from afar, and then you have Sonja in the thick of it, feeling the need to physically protect herself. Next update we have about what's going on over in Beverly Hills involving Kyle Richards' daughter, Sophia Umansky. She recently shared a very personal moment in a TikTok video where she discussed her experience with dissolving her lip filler.
Yeah, in this video, she explained she had her lip filler dissolved 2 weeks prior. She then went back to the med spa, hoping to get it refilled just slightly, but was told that actually even more dissolving was needed before she could add any new filler. She described her reaction to this news with great sadness, feeling like her heart is broken at the prospect of her lips getting even smaller. She expressed genuine disbelief that there was still filler left to dissolve after the first round.
It sounds like a moment of real vulnerability she chose to share about her body image. What was the internal conflict she seemed to be navigating regarding her lips?
She was quite open about it in the video, which really depicts her internal struggle, She acknowledged that people have been telling her they like her lips more now that they're smaller, and she admitted that look had been slowly growing on me in the past 2 weeks. But she still felt a desire for just a little something, particularly in the top lip, even if they wouldn't be as big as they were before.
She seemed genuinely upset and insecure about it in the video.
She did. She was very vulnerable, stating she feels very insecure about her lips, thinks about it constantly, overlines them with makeup, and wishes she wasn't so vain. In a caption on the video, she added the self-aware comment, "I'm so aware of how ridiculous I am, I just can't help it." This candidly depicts her struggle with body image pressures and cosmetic procedures.
And the sources connect this public sharing of insecurity to another piece of news, perhaps more concerning, from an insider source regarding her parents' worries about her health.
They do, yeah. According to an insider source, her parents, Kyle Richards and Mauricio Umansky, are reportedly quite worried about her health due to her reported use of Mounjaro for weight loss.
Mounjaro, right, which is typically a medication used for diabetes, but is also prescribed for weight loss sometimes. What specifically are her parents reportedly concerned about?
Well, the source states that her parents are really upset that she's taking a weight loss drug because the source claims she doesn't need to lose any weight.
Okay.
They reportedly feel she is not overweight and never has been, and thus doesn't need this type of medication.
And the source notes this is particularly upsetting for Kyle because of her own history.
Exactly. The source highlights that this situation is especially upsetting for Kyle because she herself suffered from an eating disorder when she was younger. The concern, according to the source, is that Sophia might be on a path that, mirrors Kyle's past struggles.
Great, that makes sense. What is Sophia's perspective on this? Does she agree with her parents' concerns?
Well, the source notes that Sophia insists that she needed to take it, that she had weight she needed help losing. So there's a disagreement there. However, the insider maintains that her parents are begging her to stop before she seriously damages her health.
Did the source mention any specific health concerns they're seeing that might be linked to the reported Mounjaro use? Anything concrete?
Yes. The source brought up the specific concern about hair loss, which Sophia herself actually admitted experiencing back in May. The insider stated that if her hair is falling out, it's a potential sign she's not getting enough nutrients. While Sophia has reportedly vowed to improve her diet to address this, there's concern, according to the source, about whether she will follow through consistently. The source concludes this point by stating that Kyle is now monitoring her diet and nagging her to take her vitamins, which illustrates that despite Sophia being an adult, 25 years old, Kyle and Mauricio reportedly remain very hands-on parents when it comes to their children's well-being.
Wow. Okay, next we are going to talk about what's been happening over in Atlanta because Real Housewives of Atlanta season 16 feels truly in a chaotic place right now.
Oh, absolutely.
There have been a lot of shakeups even while the season is, currently airing. And the major news point coming from the sources you shared is that one of the new cast members, Brit Eady, has actually filed a lawsuit against Bravo before the season has finished its run.
Yeah, that's pretty wild timing.
It is. And this all unfolded right around the time the reunion filming was scheduled.
And what's fascinating here, and the sources really highlight this,
Yeah.
is that when the reunion was filmed, there were two significant kind of related absences.
Right.
Brit Eady, which, makes sense given the lawsuit she filed, but also Kenya Moore.
Right. So another newbie, Kelli Ferrell, she spoke to TMZ about what it was like filming the reunion without them. And she said something that really captures the feeling on set.
What was that?
She felt the room wasn't as complete as it should have been without both Brit and Kenya present, like incomplete.
And Kelly gave specific reasons for wanting them there. Reasons that really illuminate the season's drama, She told TMZ she wanted Kenya there so she could provide her side of the story for everything that's happened. And then, and this felt particularly pointed according to the sources, she wished Brit had been there to be accountable for her actions.
Accountable? Okay, let's dig into that a bit. What did Kelly mean by needing accountability from Brit?
Well, Kelly kind of hinted that the final episodes, the ones airing now, will shed more light on this.
Ah, okay.
She stated that those upcoming episodes will make people understand when she didn't attend the reunion, which, strongly suggests there's some behavior or event involving Brit in these last episodes that Kelly feels needed to be addressed face-to-face, at the reunion.
And Brit's absence avoids that whole confrontation.
Exactly. It definitely evokes a sense of, unresolved tension.
Wow. So Kelly has some definite feelings there. What about Kenya? Kelly also mentioned she'd love to see Kenya return as an OG, an original cast member.
She did, yeah. She expressed that positive sentiment about wanting Kenya back, who is, a big RHOA figure, an OG. However, the sources briefly note that any potential return for Kenya might be complicated, especially after that highly publicized, infamous salon opening incident earlier this season.
Oh, right.
That whole event, whatever the full story is, definitely adds another layer of complexity to Kenya's status with the network and the show.
Got it. And Kelly didn't shy away from commenting on the lawsuit either. This is where the sources note the shade really came through, apparently. Kelly was quoted directly saying, "I definitely can't speak on that, but it's very clear that some of us might need some help with paying some bills."
Oh.
Next update we have about Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann. It appears they are attempting to reconcile, giving their marriage another shot after what has been a very public and, at times, very contentious divorce process.
Yeah, it's been messy.
The source materials state they filed a joint motion to dismiss their divorce case. Just to give context, she initially filed way back in May 2023, and he filed his counterpetition in August of that same year.
And the timeline here is, well, quite striking. The joint motion to dismiss was filed on February 21st of this year, and the divorce case is now officially closed. But what's particularly notable, as highlighted by the sources, is that this dismissal came just days after Kim had filed some incredibly serious allegations against Kroy in court documents.
Wow, that's an incredibly quick reversal. What exactly did she allege in those February 18th documents? The sources detail some really serious claims.
Yeah, she made several significant allegations. She suggested Kroy suffered from an undiagnosed mental condition and claimed he frequently had angry and emotional outbursts, which include profanity-laden tirades. She also stated, and this is strong language to use in legal docs, that she was gravely concerned about the children's best interests when left in the care of father, citing these alleged behaviors as the reason.
Gravely concerned, that level of concern in court paperwork is definitely significant. Were there other claims in those documents?
Yes, the sources know she made further serious claims. She stated these outbursts were often directed not just at her, but also at their 4 youngest children. That's Kroy, KJ Jagger, who's 14, Cash Cat, who's 12, and the twins Kaya Rose and Kane Wren, who are 11.
Wow, the kids too.
Yeah. And she also alleged he had bouts of physical violence and extreme sexual promiscuity. I mean, these are very heavy accusations to make in a legal filing.
And amidst all this drama, the sources point out this is actually the second time they've publicly tried to reconcile, right?
That's right.
The first attempt was back in mid-2023, but it didn't stick.
Correct. This marks another attempt to mend things after a previous one failed. And if we connect this to the broader context, the sources also bring in their housing situation from just weeks before this divorce dismissal news. Apparently, they had to be physically ejected from their former marital mansion in Georgia by U.S. Marshals.
So you have these incredibly serious allegations filed in court, followed just days later by a joint request to dismiss the divorce, all happening shortly after they were removed from their home following a foreclosure. It certainly depicts a complex and, well, turbulent situation.
Extremely.
The sources also recently noted that Kim had claimed to have a boyfriend right before this dismissal.
Yes, that detail was also reported recently, adding another an interesting layer to their public narrative leading up to this dismissal.
Next update we have about Ralph Pittman Jr. and Drew Sidora. This situation involves Ralph taking his side of their post-divorce conflict straight to X, formerly Twitter. This was back on June 10th.
Ralph's main claims on X were that Drew is actively lying about him and simultaneously trying to get back together with him while she is reportedly dating another man named Blakk. He specifically accused her of lying about him abusing my son, claiming this is the false reason she gives for him staying in the basement. He also accused her of lying about him bringing a woman into the house. Pretty specific stuff.
And as part of these public posts, Ralph apparently leaked a series of text messages he claimed were exchanged between him and Drew, which discussed their sex life.
That's right. He included a screenshot of one text exchange as part of his argument. He then went further, claiming Drew is involved sexually with this man, Blakk, but is also attempting reconciliation with him, Ralph.
Okay, wait. Both at once.
That's his claim. And to support this, he shared a second set of leaked text messages, which he alleged were between Drew and Blakk, quoting phrases like, "Consider yourself cuffed, baby," and "Okok, Mr. Blakk." The sources, Reality Blurb and Reality T, they confirmed that Blakk is indeed the Instagram user Blakk Tatted and follows Drew on that platform. So there's a connection there.
So, according to Ralph's public claims, you've got alleged infidelity and simultaneous attempts at reconciliation happening. What about the show itself? He made claims about how things were portrayed on camera, didn't he?
Yes, he directly addressed the reality TV aspect of their relationship. He asserted, and the sources quote him directly here, that most of the things you saw on TV was fabricated.
Fabricated.
Yeah. His perspective, as he laid it out on X, is that he played the bad guy for Drew to keep her peach, implying this was some kind of deliberate mutual agreement for the show's storyline. And he now feels she's taking it too far.
Taking it too far in what way? Did he give an example of this alleged fabrication?
He did. He used the Tampa event from the show as an example, claiming it didn't happen the way you all thought. He stated that Drew had his location on her phone during that time, implying this was part of, controlling the narrative or fabricating events.
Okay, and he ended his posts with a direct warning message for Drew.
He concluded with a strong public message advising Drew to stop lying and speaking negatively about my character, integrity, and or discrediting my name.
Pretty direct.
Very. He stated that the bad guy storyline was successfully used every season and now it's time to say goodbye. His public statements on X vividly depict his desire to dismantle that narrative and accuse Drew of manipulation and infidelity, using leaked private communications to do it.
Yeah.
This situation certainly illustrates how deeply intertwined personal conflicts, reality TV narratives, and, public social media platforms have become.
It really does. Okay, next update we have about the Real Housewives of Miami. We're shifting gears down to Florida for some drama from the Season 7 premiere, specifically involving Guerdy Abraira and Julia Lemigova. The context, as reported in the sources, is that Julia and her wife, Martina Navratilova, had adopted 2 boys, which is wonderful news, and held a group Skype call to share this with the other women.
Right, a happy occasion. But here's where the conflict, which felt so personal according to the sources, began. Guerdy's link to the call didn't work.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so she missed the announcement itself. When Guerdy then reached out to Julia later to ask about the news, Julia reportedly told her to wait until the news was made public before sharing details directly.
Ouch.
And according to the source, that significantly upset Guerdy.
Okay, so a technical glitch leads to Guerdy missing the big moment, and then Julia's response to her follow-up didn't sit well at all. How did Guerdy react to Julia's message?
Well, Guerdy's response, as detailed in the sources, was to take to social media to share her side of the story. And critically, she leaked a screenshot of her interaction with Julia via text message from the day the call happened.
Leaking the texts again.
Yep, it definitely sets the scene for the drama that followed.
Okay, let's walk through that exchange as presented in the source material.
All right. The sources detail the text conversation. It starts with Guerdy asking Julia if a new link would be sent because the old one didn't work. Julia apologized, saying she didn't know what went wrong, but that everyone else was on the original link.
Okay.
She then mentioned having something amazing to tell them, but said the news was already out publicly. She added that she hoped Guerdy was feeling better after her surgery, and said she was dictating the message because her hands were full, and Guerdy would understand when she read about it.
Right, the dictating part. And how did Guerdy respond after that, presumably after finding the news online herself?
Well, after apparently discovering the adoption news herself, Guerdy's next text, shown in the screenshot, was, "Oh, okay, so I guess I'll look online for this announcement."
Kind of passive-aggressive.
A little bit, yeah. Followed by a concise, "Congrats."
So she had to fetch the information herself, as she put it later. Guerdy added her own perspective to this exchange via a text overlay on the screenshot, didn't she?
Yes, she did. She added context via an overlay on the image she shared. She stated that Julia never told me the news by text or by phone, and that she literally made me festichi the information, despite Guerdy still offering her congrats when she found out. The sources note that many fans online called out Julia for this perceived slight. People felt Guerdy made a clear effort to connect and that Julia could have easily shared the news directly, even if by voice to text, as she claimed.
Yeah, you can see why people felt that way.
Right.
Okay, next update we have about staying in Miami involves Lisa Hochstein and her boyfriend, Jody Glidden.
Lisa Hochstein, got it.
This is another piece of drama that arose from the RHOM Season 7 premiere, where they apparently had to fight back against cocaine allegations that surfaced after a particular scene aired.
That's right. The sources pinpoint the specific scene that sparked these rumors. Jody was captured on camera telling some friends, "We're going for a shot and some AC." Then when one of the friends asked, "Where's the AC?" Jody replied, "In my room. Wanna go?"
AC. Okay, let's clarify this. How did that seemingly straightforward exchange about AC lead to such serious allegations being discussed online?
Well, this brief exchange, particularly after a clip circulated on X and was discussed across social media, led to widespread online speculation that AC was being used as a code word for cocaine.
Wow. So how did Lisa Hochstein and Jody respond to this wave of speculation? I imagine they weren't happy.
No, not at all. Lisa Hochstein took to Instagram to address it directly. She called the scene a gross misrepresentation and accused producers of manipulative editing for how the moment was portrayed.
Manipulative editing. Okay. What was her explanation for what was actually happening in that scene, according to her?
Lisa Hochstein provided a pretty detailed counter-narrative. She explained that Jody and their friends were simply in their primary suite and lounge area, which she described as a large common space they use with guests, not some small solitary bathroom, as the speculation might imply.
Gotcha.
She stated their friends were seeking privacy there because they didn't want to be filmed. And crucially, she emphasized that AC equals air conditioning, which is, essential in Miami.
Fair point.
She firmly stated that any implication beyond simply needing air conditioning was completely false and upsetting.
That seems like a pretty logical explanation, especially in Miami heat. Did Jody also weigh in on this?
He did, yeah, in a separate Instagram response. He started with a somewhat provocative statement, acknowledging that as a grown man in Miami, if you were doing that, who cares?
Yeah.
Adding, it's probably a safe assumption for 50% of Miami.
That's quite an opening. But he followed up with clarification, right? He didn't leave it there.
Oh no, immediately. He pivoted right away to stating he's a fitness fanatic that barely drinks. His core point wasn't about drug use at all, but rather his general discomfort with being on camera, though he participates to support Lisa Hochstein.
Right.
He reiterated that his friends, who were there for his birthday, also didn't want to be filmed, and went to the more private living room area within his master suite, stressing it wasn't a tiny bathroom. And that particular area had working AC, unlike the main living room where doors might have been open, making it hot.
Okay, so their accounts depict the retreat to the room being purely about privacy and comfort from the heat, not some coded drug reference. Did Jody offer any thoughts on why production might have included that specific clip?
Yes, he offered his belief about the production's intent. He claims the scene was added just to explain why I wasn't in the room during the argument that was unfolding elsewhere.
Ah, context.
Right, suggesting it wasn't intended to imply drug use, but rather to provide context for his absence from another scene. He added that he's rarely in group scenes because this isn't my thing. And he's primarily there to support Lisa Hochstein, not get involved in drama, especially since he's not a full cast member, and, has a daughter.
Makes sense.